Big game hunting is the hunting of large game, usually terrestrial mammals. Different game is targeted based on the different location of the animal. The history, it's been around for thousands of years. It originated with man. They originally hunted mammoths. It's now known as trophy hunting. They take the animal's skin, antlers, horns, head, and just use it as a trophy pretty much. Big game hunting is legal, but there are many restrictions on it. You can't just go out and just hunt freely. It's a controversial issue because trophy hunting, some believe that it is unnecessary and has a negative impact on society. Others believe that there's nothing wrong with it and they should be able to profit off these animals. Hunting can be broken down into two types of hunting. There's good hunting versus bad hunting. The good hunting, it keeps wildlife population in balance, helps improve highway safety, generates jobs and revenue, and that focuses more on like hunting deer, fish, rodents, birds. And then there's bad hunting. A concern for that is hunting these bigger, stronger animals messes up nature's balance. Endangering animals, around 600 lions are killed every year, and there's only about 25 to 30,000 lions left in Africa. Bigger and larger animals play an important role in the society, and when they're killed, it puts the rest of its family at risk. Big game hunting is across the world. It takes place in North America, Africa, India, Europe, South America. Some of the ones that are hunted in North America include moose, elk, caribou, bison, and bears. Up next we have Jacob to talk about the economic side of it.
Big game hunting is a huge source of revenue for the countries that have it. It is vital to their economies, to keeping everything going. It's estimated to be about a $200 million a year industry, which is huge. The money goes, the government takes some of the money, most of the money goes back into the reserves, paying for the guides and people who take the hunters out. It goes into helping maintain the animals, keeping them safe, making sure nutrition is good and everything like that. If you wanted to go hunt a lion, it costs about anywhere from $9,000 to $35,000, and it could cost as much as $50,000. Those prices are just for the bag and tagging of the animal. It doesn't count for food, the hotel room, which would cost you anywhere from $300 to $400 a night. Most people go on the trip and hunt for anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Lions aren't the only animals being hunted. You have what's known as the Big Five, which are lions, water buffalo, jaguars, rhinos, and elephants are also being hunted and also helping to provide that $200 million a year. What normally would happen is the guide would take you out and they would do what's known as canned hunting, which all it is they would go out a few days before, find the animals that you wanted to hunt, put basically a fence around them, a perimeter around them so they can't escape, and then when you're ready to hunt, the guide would take you there and you can go kill the animal, which really takes a lot of the sport out of hunting, which is why some people have a problem with it.
Cecil the lion was born in 2002 and was killed on July 1st, 2015 by Walter Palmer. Cecil the lion at the time was at the Hawaii National Park and was being studied by Oxford University for lion habits and movements throughout the area. Cecil was wounded by an arrow and was later put down by a rifle 40 hours later. At the time, Cecil was killed when he was 13 years old, and Walter Palmer was led by two Zimbabwean big game helpers, and Cecil the lion was led off the national park to meet his demise. The social ramifications of such was that Cecil's killing created an outrage among animal protectors and prompted responses from politicians and many other people, because it was unlawful to lead a lion off a national reserve. This sparked many discussions, and it made ultimately big game hunting much more of a challenge to happen in Africa. And the Zimbabwean response was, after this big incident, big game hunting became a not a thing for people to do anymore, because I mean, if we were to go to Africa to kill a lion or anything, the death threats that ensued Walter Palmer were huge, and the lion population there increased dramatically, and the people in Zimbabwe were saying they would have to call up to 200 lions, which would approximately be $1 million.
All right, so that brings us to the conclusion. And in the conclusion, I'm just going to reintroduce some of the things that my other group members have talked about during their slides, and then I'm going to try to wrap up the project as a whole. So one of the topics I would like to reintroduce is the idea of the viewpoint, or whether big game hunting is good hunting or whether it's bad hunting. So some see big game hunting as good because of the money that the industry generates, and this money is used to preserve the lion's habitat. It's used to feed the lions and look after their general well-being. And more than just the money to look after their general well-being, big game hunting also assigns monetary value to the lion. And to help illustrate this point, I'm going to use this graph over here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a graph of lion population in Africa from the year 1800 to the year 2000. So in the year 1800, there were 1.2 million lions in Africa. And it decreases. By the year 1980, which is around where my finger is at right now on the graph, there were only 100,000 lions in Africa. And this decreasing trend continued to the year 2000, where there are an estimated 30,000 lions remaining in Africa. And so the idea of these animals being attributed a monetary value means that they will be more likely to be protected, because you're not just looking at a lion anymore, you're looking at an investment opportunity. Because every lion, the average lion who's hunted in Africa goes for a bag of $35,000, which is a substantial amount of money, especially to the African economy. And so the idea is that these lions will be protected upon economic necessity, as well as other reasons. However, many people do oppose big game hunting, and those opposed to big game hunting, they often cite that it may embolden poachers, because what is big game hunting? It's basically hunting large animals for trophies. That's exactly what poachers do, and then they sell those trophies. However, big game hunters do it legally. They get permits, they get licensed, and they pay large amounts of money, whereas poachers do it illegally. In addition, opponents of big game hunting often cite that although the industry is profitable, the tourism industry generates more revenue and provides longer permanent employment. For instance, Zambia's Luangwa National Park boasts 800 employees, which is 30 times greater than the average big game hunting facility. One thing that was really interesting about this topic, though, was the malleability of the statistics and the evidence. It seemed like the statistics were highly politicized, and that you could kind of cherry pick what you like depending on what your side, which side of the story your side wanted to push forward, if that makes sense. For instance, Zambia's Luangwa National Park employing 800 employees. That's great, and it's awesome, and it does show that the tourism industry is more lucrative than the big game industry, but it doesn't fully portray the picture of the whole, because the big game hunting industry still is a $200 million a year industry, and it still employs a lot of people, a lot of local people from poorer villages, and that money does go into lion conservation. So it doesn't necessarily portray the full picture. Now, one possible solution that I think both the good and the bad proponents, people along both the good and the bad aisles of the big game hunting debate could agree on, would be the promotion of tourism and maybe government investment in the tourism industry, because tourism, as I have said before, is more lucrative, and the same principles of these lions being worth a money value still stands with tourism. However, it would be a mistake to think that you could ban big game hunting, as this represents a different sector, partly of the economy, because some people who big game hunt don't necessarily want to just go to Africa for tourism purposes. Another reason why we chose this topic, which I would just like to speak about briefly, is the connection between the economic, the environmental, and the political. And we think that it illustrates perfectly the complexity of environmental science, because part of the issue with environmental science, part of what makes it different from other sciences, is that the answer isn't always black and white due to the economic and political factors. So there's a lot of issues that you kind of have to deal with when speaking about big game hunting, or when speaking about environmental science. And big game hunting is one of these really profound issues that encapsulates both the economic, the environmental, and the political. And all three of these forces have a relationship with one another that will determine a person or a country's position.